Hanzo has received a pretty hefty rework. His new abilities are very fun to play and they certainly put him in a much more viable spot in the current state of Overwatch. However, there is one very important question that we should be asking. Now that Hanzo has a much more reliable and better burst ability in addition to a better escape, where does that leave McCree? Does Hanzo replace McCree in this meta? Is McCree left in the dust? Today we're going to be looking at the top 5 reasons why Hanzo is McCree's replacement and why McCree might need some changes to bring him up to speed. My name is Nathan and welcome to Blizzard Guides. So some background. Now, I know this statement might be weird that Hanzo is McCree's replacement, and it does not make sense to a lot of players. I totally understand that. I'm going to be getting into all of the reasons why. McCree's role in the game is to provide sustainable range to the team, with high bursts of damage and anti-flanker potential. He either plays with the supports or on the high ground, but cannot fill both spots. But anyway, McCree will be the main DPS for the team. Hanzo, with the current rework, actually does the same thing. He's supposed to play with either his team on the ground or take high ground, whichever is more convenient at the moment. In addition to this, with the Sonic Arrow, Hanzo is technically an anti-flanker. While not a direct counter to a flanker, is definitely a huge aid to the team trying to locate or kill a flanker. And as a sniper, Hanzo actually has a lot of range. I mean, that one's pretty obvious. So I'm going to go over all of McCree's and Hanzo's abilities and show you why Hanzo does them better in every way and why this rework might be an issue for McCree. At number 5, Hanzo's ability to reposition quickly trumps McCree's static positioning. So when you play McCree, you really have to commit to where you stand. You can't be moving around the map a lot because you don't have many escape abilities and you really can't just reposition very quickly. Like I mentioned, some McCrees will play on the high ground where they can see the enemy and sometimes protect their teammates, and others will definitely play on the ground with their tanks and healers, protect their healers, and receive some protection from their team, and just be the consistent damage dealer for their team. Typically, you'll want to do this whenever you have a sniper on your team or something like Junkrat or Pharah because they just won't be consistently putting pressure like a McCree on the ground will do. However, when you play Hanzo, you actually really don't have to make this decision. You're able to either take aggressive or defensive positioning quickly and at your own will. You don't really have to wait for the enemy to clear from a path or a different route. You just wall climb and lunge to and from the high ground. Doing this intelligently will allow you to put pressure where it is necessary and do it to a greater degree. The only real disadvantage is playing up close and in front of the enemy, where a McCree might fare better just due to the stun that he has, but because heroes like Brigitte and Doomfist are now more popular, this might not even be that necessary because there are so many other stun options available. So in the end, as far as positioning goes, Hanzo just totally outperforms McCree. At number 4, we've got Hanzo's ability to apply quick bursts of damage. Hanzo's new storm arrows are really impressive. If you've got good aim, landing all 6 headshots provides up to 960 damage, and if you land just body shots, it's 480, and it definitely does enough to kill a squishy. You only need to land 3 shots. Because of this and the fact that it doesn't consume ammo, Hanzo's storm arrows are significantly more useful than McCree's Fan the Hammer. Fan the Hammer will put McCree at an inherent disadvantage. The quick unload of ammo and the lack of accuracy really make for a lacking ability. On the other hand, Hanzo's arrows don't put any disadvantage on the user, and quite frankly, they do a better job than Fan the Hammer. There aren't really any moments that justify the lower cooldown of Fan the Hammer, so having the higher damage and more accurate ability is a huge advantage a Hanzo has over a McCree, just one of the many aspects of McCree's kit that Hanzo really outperforms. At number 3, we're looking at the lunge and roll specifically. So because of the fact that Hanzo requires no ammo and that McCree does, I'm going to look at McCree's roll through the lens of an escape ability. The main justification of McCree's roll is his reload, but because both Storm Arrow and roll have the same cooldown, Hanzo will actually get more burst damage than a McCree using roll off of cooldown. So not to repeat the same point, we're going to look at it as an escape. So as an escape, it kinda just sucks. It doesn't really give you much of a gap, and while it is quick, Hanzo's is quicker. Hanzo is able to fly through the air, shoot, and then land, while McCree only reloads and must stay on the ground, not to mention that he can't control the distance at all while Hanzo can to an extent. Hanzo already had the wall climb, but with Lunge's addition, you're able to get to places as Hanzo with more ease and with a lot of more possibilities. McCree's so-called escape is actually just so bad that I almost don't want to call it one, as to be honest, it really isn't, and it really doesn't have much use with the exception of the top 1% of players. Really, if you're anything below Masters, you're really not going to get much value out of it like you would with Hanzo's combo of Wall Ride, Lunge, and Storm Arrow. At number 2, the last ability we're looking at, and by far the biggest change that most people are ignoring, Hanzo's reduced cooldown of Sonic Arrow. This is such a big change that I'm surprised not many people are talking about it. In its previous state, Hanzo's Sonic Arrow had such a large cooldown that it really didn't see much use in matchmaking games. However, now that Sonic is on a 12-second cooldown and 6-second duration, it only sees 6 seconds of downtime as opposed to the 10 of the previous version. This means that Hanzo is virtually always able to show where the flankers are, especially if his game sense is good enough. Assuming that the Hanzo does have good enough game sense, it is likely that he is playing with a team that has the resources and likely skill to kill any flankers that would have their positioning revealed to the Hanzo's team. This means that while Hanzo isn't really a direct counter to flankers, his kit allows him to really aid in the takedown of said flankers and removes the absolute necessity for a direct anti-flanker counter. McCree's stun and kit are intended to be anti-flanker, and while they still are, they will not be necessary if you have a Hanzo filling his role. In addition to this, while not something Hanzo in particular does better, considering the fact that so many heroes with strong CC exist, and with shorter cooldowns and greater follow-up, McCree's stun and anti-flanker roles really aren't that necessary anymore, leaving McCree in a really bad spot. So at number 1, I'm going to sum it all up and tell you why McCree really needs some changes and maybe some that could be made. So in McCree's current state, he really doesn't see much value from any aspects of his kit. He can be countered easily, doesn't have much of a specialization, and not to mention his really awful ult, which by the way is a worse zoning ult in my opinion than Hanzo's Dragons. McCree really just can't keep up in the current ultra mobile meta, and with heavy usage of shields in the game, he can't really keep up with that either. His very static gameplay makes him far too easy to counter, and because of the map balance favoring more mobile heroes, McCree is becoming more and more of a niche hero. Some suggestions that I could see making McCree a much more valuable pick are as follows. 1. Allowing McCree to roll mid-air would be so useful. Many times I see myself needing more ammo and jumping off of a ledge, and I just don't have the option to get more until I land on the ground. Allowing McCree to instantly reload while he's jumping through the air would be a small change, but it would make a big difference, especially for players that really get use out of every 6 shots that he lands. 2. I'd like to see a shorter cooldown on stun and making it detonate near enemies, as sometimes you can throw your stun and have it miss. If it were more consistent, this would allow McCree to have a way more effective stun where it makes sense on the ground brawling with his team. And lastly, increasing the barrier damage from Fan the Hammer might be a really viable change, allowing McCree to fulfill his brawling near point playstyle to a greater effect. Being able to take down shields faster than his archer counterpart would solidify the differences in their playstyle. This would mean that the greatest difference between the two would be projectile versus hit scan, and their roles would no longer be the same. These changes in my opinion would help out the best, but because of the current state of the game, McCree is just really losing his spot to many other mobile heroes, so he really might need attention soon. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you guys have any suggestions for McCree's changes. I'd like to hear what you guys have to know, or if you disagree with me, I'd like to hear your opinion as well. Also, don't forget to leave a like on this video, as it really helps us know that you guys are enjoying this content. And don't forget to subscribe, as we have a lot of epic moments videos so that you can see the best plays from around the globe. And we've got tips and tricks videos just like this so that you can be the best Overwatch player that you can be. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a nice day. My name is Nathan, and this was Blizzard Guides.